Trading away all your players besides just 2 from a championship run can sound crazy, but guess what? The Phoenix Suns have done just that. And to some, it may be justified, but to others, it might sound like the worst gamble you could take. When you land talents like Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, your return on investment could be very high, as now they have unlimited ammo on the offensive end to go along with Devin Booker. But then again, when you look at your depth, that's where problems start to arise. There's been arguments floating around that defense wins championships, some say offense wins championships now, but in my eyes, I think it's team chemistry, depth, and a combination of both offensive and defensive weapons. When taking a peek at this Suns roster, it has some holes in the system, but we can't just ignore the great things within it. Getting guys who can score the ball at all 3 levels very effectively isn't something every team runs across often, and for the Phoenix Suns, they have just this, so it automatically raises them up on the totem pole. Now I know the first thing most of you are thinking, and that's who's going to run the point guard for this offense now that Chris Paul and Cam Payne are now gone. Well, honestly, it might sound crazy, but I don't think they actually need a true point guard to run this offense in the starting lineup. Between Beal and Booker, they both average 5 assists apiece, and when you add in KD to the mix, he dishes out 5 assists as well, so I'm sure they will be fine when it comes to operating this offense fluidly. Now, will those times arise where the offense could get stagnant or everyone will just be looking for their own buckets? Most definitely. And that's where one of these 3 stars will have to step up and be the leader of this unit, and the other 2 will have to gracefully take the back seat and trust the number 1 guy to take them to the promised land. If you ask me, Kevin Durant needs to step up and become the certified first option and allow the offense to run right through him. As a 2-time champion, 2 times finals MVP, 10 All-NBA selections, and many more amazing accolades, Durant has a resume that showcases his amazing talent and ability to perform at a high level. Going into his 16th season at 35 years old, KD has the maturity to lead this team, and before the comments flood in saying, well, he's getting old and he's injury prone and blah 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 blah, I got something for you. Durant by far has had one of the most amazing comebacks after tearing his Achilles, which you rarely see at the highest levels of competition, and when you analyze his game, it's so smooth and more dependent on his shooting rather than driving to the hole and being super shifty, so if no freak accidents happen, I'm sure KD will be pretty healthy throughout most of the season. Being a sniper on the floor, Durant automatically took a ton of pressure off Devin Booker being the only guy who could go get a bucket when he wanted, and this led to the defense being stretched out even more as they had to account for Durant's high level of scoring. Although it might be a small sample size, in the 8 games where KD and Booker shared the court together, the offense shot 53% from the field, 45% from deep, and dished out 13 assists on just 6 turnovers. So already there, you can see how well the offense flowed when these 2 were out there torching the defense, and for the people that want to bring up the facilitating problems, you can see it didn't lack when these 2 held that responsibility. Working off one another just looked seamless, as when Booker couldn't get it going, KD could. Averaging 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists on shooting splits of 56% from the field and 40% from 3-point range, it doesn't matter that KD is getting up there in age, as he can give the defense problems from everywhere and anywhere on the court. Say you want him to operate from deep? Okay, he can launch it from 30 if needed. Need him to create for himself in that mid-range? No problem, he can string together a slight combo and rise up for the jumper. And let's say the defense pressures him into putting the ball on the deck to go score inside, well, with his lanky frame, he can extend out over the defense to finish over the top of them. Trust me, when you have a 7-footer who can go get buckets on command, really anything is possible, and I know some people will troll and say KD is unable to win without Steph, but over here at Hoop Mastery, we don't put too much value in the narratives as we just analyze players' game and break down how well they will perform. Putting KD next to Book not only helped his team out greatly, but since he doesn't need a lot of shots to be effective, he can let Booker take his time to generate the shots he wants, and if needed, just be a release option. As we all noticed since the trade, teams couldn't just all out dedicate so much attention to Booker because KD was out there as well, and when the playoffs started, you could see this on full display. I mean, look at this shot chart from Booker during the postseason. It's really comical how he destroyed the defense from everywhere on the court, and he literally could not be stopped. Look, everybody focus in and think about this real quick. For all of us that have played pickup basketball, you all know when a team has 1 to 2 or 3 good players, but one is just slightly better. You expect the better one to explode on the offensive end, so everybody's geared towards him. But when the second option just starts to take over and make it rain on the floor, it makes the whole defense raise their eyes a little bit, just wondering where they should cater more attention to. But as we all know, the truth is you really can't give more attention to one or the other, as they both have the abilities to turn it up at any time, and that's why Devin Booker could maneuver so comfortably. On the season, Booker put up 27 points with shooting splits of 49% from the field and 35% from deep, and when we shift right into his playoff averages, D-Book dropped in 33 points a night on splits of 58% shooting from the field and 50% from 3-point range. To be honest, I don't think his historic playoff performance gets talked about enough, because to perform the way he did, you have to be really locked in, and not only that, it showcased just how good Booker could perform under the bright lights once the pressure was on. The playoffs is really where things matter the most, as you'll see tons of teams load manage throughout the season to prepare for the postseason, and if Booker can light it up how he did this past season and next year's playoffs, then boy oh boy oh boy will teams have a problem on their hands. Now wait just a second, I already know what opinion popped in your head. You're probably saying to yourself, no way Book can perform on the level he did this past postseason. And hey, you may be right. But if he only rises up to 75% of the level he played at, then they will still be in good hands, as they now have brought in Bradley Beal to pair with him and Kevin Durant. That 1-2 punch was already deadly enough when it came to the offensive firepower, but now when you add in another pure bucket getter, it just makes things that much more fierce. Like I said, they don't really need that point guard presence simply because with these three guys spacing the floor and having the abilities to score at all three levels, they can make the defense shift in many ways, which will at least open up one of them on that wing to go put points on the board. Only being 2 seasons removed from his 30 points per game season, Beal is still an electrifying scorer who is definitely slept on. Maybe it's because he's been playing for the Wizards, but now with him moving scenes playing out in Phoenix, it should surely bring a lot of eyes to his game. When we take a look at his deep ball stats, Beal dropped in 36% of his 4 attempts per game, but there's something that makes this a little more interesting. When we break it down further and look at his splits, Beal knocked down 40% of his catch and shoot threes while only connecting on 33% of his pull-up threes. Now you're probably wondering, why exactly is this interesting? Well, when Durant and Booker are running a 2-man game on one side of the floor, or if one of them is just isoing out, then Beal will be out on the wing waiting to receive the pass, and with him knocking them down at a 40% rate, is going to cause the defense tons of headaches. Now I know the attempts may be low as he only took 2 a game, but you have to remember that he was in Washington where guys really couldn't set him up the best. But when you play alongside KD and D-Book, you're going to get way more open looks than you could ever want. Not only will that 3-ball be an option for Beal and will help this team out a lot, but when you look at a breakdown of his top 3 scoring areas, it goes from the restricted area where he connected on 71% of his 243 shots, then to his mid-range where he knocked down 47% of his 212 jumpers, and then to his 3-pointers above the break where he drained them at a 35% rate on 165 shot attempts. So you can see right there that Beal isn't limited to a certain area on the court, and with his sturdy handle, he can create for himself to go get open shots as well. This 3-headed snake is truly deadly, and I don't think anyone ever had doubts of the scoring. I think where the major concerns arise is with their depth and on the defensive end. Sure, they got some size and length with Watanabe, Eubanks, and Bobo, and a couple others, but honestly, I want to talk to all of you in the comments below about how much the new signings really moved the needle. As we all know, the regular season is one thing, but the real main goal is a championship. So when entering the playoffs, you can only be so competitive with a team full of role players, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. The firepower as far as the offensive end is great, but does offense from just 3 guys solely win championships, or will it take more than that? Getting Frank Vogel, who is a defensive-minded coach, is great, as he can probably implement some schemes that can help them out greatly, and we can all agree that they need that for sure. So, did the Phoenix Suns raise the rank, or did they break the bank? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe before heading over to watch this Devin Booker playoff analysis. I thank you all for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.